InBetween is a game with a very unusual box. Well, not at first sight. It is unusual because on the cover there are no words, there isn't even the title, just you see this old Americana kind of picture, wholesome picture, but with a little bit of a threatening feel given by that shadow there. And then on the back of the box you see the horror version, the dark version of the same image, and again no words. All of the information that you need is on the sides of the box, like number of players, recommended age, this kind of thing. The theme seems to be inspired by Stranger Things, the TV show. Also reminded me of the TV show Fringe, but Stranger Things seems to be a closer source here. The theme, well, there is the world that we know, somewhere in the US. From some of the clues in the cards, it seems to be somewhere in Indiana, which is where I live now. Great state, by the way. It's an okay state with a great town in it, which is beautiful, Bloomington, Indiana. Come to visit when you can. But I digress. So we have somewhere in the US, a nice town that is being invaded or threatened by its own dark version, by the Upside Down, by the dark version of itself. And in there is a mysterious creature with a capital C that lurks there and is trying to drag the rest of the town and its denizens on the dark side of things. So 2 players, one will control the humans of the town, one will control the creature and the Upside Down, and they will be fighting over, well, several resources. It is in essence a card game with a hand management mechanic, but also it has an interesting, shall I call it, action track that is formed with cards and that changes from game to game. Without further ado, let me show you how InBetween works. Players in the game will fight for control of the people that live in town. These people are represented by these cards, and these cards are double-sided. One side for when the person is in town normally, and another one for when the person is in the dark side. At the beginning of the game, you shuffle all these cards and you place 10 of them in a circle, alternating regular side, dark side, regular, dark side, and so on and so forth. As you can see, there are more than you will use in any single game, so there's going to be great variety here. You have a marker that represents which character is the active character now, and it is double-sided. When this side is up, the human player goes. When this side is up, the creature player goes. Then each card also has several slots, as you can see here. On these slots, you will place these markers here. They're called safety markers. I like to think of them as control markers. That is really what they mean. If a card does not have a safety marker, it still is, say, leaning towards the side that is visible. So this one is leaning towards the town, human player, and this one is leaning towards darkness. When you place it here, well, now the control is more established, and you will use game effects to place these markers as low as possible in the lowest possible spot on a card. When in fact you place a marker, a safety marker, in the bottom space of a card, the card is locked. That is, that marker cannot be moved by regular game effects. You need to use special effects, and pretty much that counts. The card now is locked on your side, quote-unquote, for good, or mainly for good. Another important concept is awareness. Each player has an awareness card, such as this one. You place a marker on it at the beginning of the game. You place it in number 0. You will spend resources to move this marker down that track. At the beginning of your turn, you can also choose to use the ability that is described next to where the marker is, or in a higher position. You can do that only once per game, so when that happens, you flip this marker this way, so we still know how much awareness you have, but we also know that you cannot use the ability anymore. If you ever reach the 6th space of your awareness track, you win the game. This is one of several ways of winning the game. Another way is to have full control of 3 people on your side on the board. If that is the case, then in this case, the human player wins the game. Each player has a unique deck of cards. As you can see from the back, they are different indeed. And the cards have very thematic illustrations. Simple, but really nice. As for game purposes, each card has a symbol, it has a number, and it also has a special ability. The number is the number of energy cubes that a player needs to spend to activate that ability. Each player will also have a pool of cubes. You saw symbols on those cards. You may notice also that each citizen has 2 symbols on their cards, 1 for each side. Now, how does it work? You will have a hand of cards, and at the beginning of your turn, you can choose to use your awareness ability if you haven't done so yet, and if you're not at 0, but that will only happen once per game. As for what mainly happens, at the beginning of your turn, you can perform 1 of 3 available actions. Let's start with the easy ones. You can rest, in which case you gain energy cubes equal to the number of citizens that are on your side. So at the beginning of the game would be 5 and 5, later it may change. So you rest, you don't do anything but gaining new cubes. You can prepare, which means you discard any number of cards from your hand and then you draw until you have 5. You don't get to draw cards normally, automatically at the end of your turn, for example. You need to spend game effects or to use the prepare action. Or you get to play a card. So each turn during the action phase, you will only get 1 of those 3. Get cubes, get cards, or play a card. When you play a card, the first thing that you do is you look at the symbol. Suppose that this is the human player here and playing this card. First you look at that symbol. What you can do is you take a token with that same symbol and you add it to any card in play. So now that card counts as also having that symbol. Or you can use the card to change the safety/control level of a character with that symbol. So for example, I have a lot of cards of this type. I want to influence Julie that doesn't have that symbol, so I spend a card to give her that symbol, and then I spend further cards with that symbol to influence her. What you do, for pretty much 1 action using this symbol, you can take a card of the opponent that doesn't have any marker and flip it to your side. Or if there is a card on your side that doesn't have a cube, you place a safety cube on the first level. Or if there is a card that has a cube, you move that cube. If you're using that on your own character, you will want to move it up. Otherwise, if you're using your symbol ability to influence the marker, you will want to move it, down when it's your own, because you're improving your situation, and you want to move it up when you're manipulating a safety symbol of the opponent. A way to think of this is think of each character as from your point of view, say from the human player, and think of this as +4, +3, +2, +1, 0, 0 the light side, 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. So again, if I'm the human player and I get to influence this one 3 times in 3 turns, this is the first influence, this is the second influence, and this would be the third influence. If I influence it again, I do this and I do that. So you're trying to move this one again as close as possible to lock a character to your side, and the other way around, you're trying to prevent the opponent from doing that with their own characters. So this is what you do with a card. Again, remember, place a symbol token on a character that doesn't have that symbol, or manipulate the safety level, control level on a character that has that symbol. Next, you look at the number and the ability. You can spend that number of energy cubes to activate the ability, and you simply, in which case, do what it says. That is during your action phase. Next, we look at this marker here. We'll place this marker here just for convenience. It's more convenient that way. So we look at that marker. If that marker is on a card that doesn't have any cubes, nothing happens in this phase. You simply move the marker to the next card, and you flip it to the other side to indicate now the creature player will go. And then this will be next turn and next turn. At the beginning of the game, the marker moves clockwise. At the end of each turn, there may be game effects that will make it move in the other direction. We use that token as a reminder of the direction we are going. Suppose we are going here. Now the creature player will take their turn as normally. Remember, awareness, play a card or prepare a rest. And then again, we check the card. If the card does have cubes on it, then the player that controls it has a chance of increasing their awareness. The player may spend energy cubes to go up one step in awareness. The cost in energy is the level that you want to reach, and you can only go up one step per turn. So if I spend an energy cube here, then I go up there. Suppose later in the game the marker hits that card there, then again there's a cube, so I am the controlling player, have a chance of going up in awareness. I spend 2 cubes and I go there, and then so on and so forth. And that's how you mainly increase in awareness. The marker is on a card on your side that has a cube on it. Also, and if the cube is on the first space, that's all that happens. If the cube is in one of the other spaces, on top of getting a chance of increasing your awareness, you also get to activate the ability of the character. And so these abilities are very powerful, just to give you a sense of the kind of things that you can do. In many cases, you will get cards, get energy, guess to mess things up for the opponent. Things like that. So again, it's very important because at the end of each turn, there might be an extra phase in which a player may get to increase their awareness and may get to activate that ability if there is a marker there, and depending on where the marker is. And that is unrelated to who the active player is. The active player here is the creature player who gets to play card, or to rest or stuff like that. But then it is the town/human player that will get to possibly increase their awareness if they have enough energy and use that ability. So that is an interesting element here. And you continue like this, playing cards, activating effects, again, until a player controls 3 characters, the maximum level of control, or a player reaches, in the case that is the winner, a player has 6 levels of awareness. It's also possible that the town will be reduced in size if only 5 townies are still alive in town, then the player that has the majority of characters in play wins the game. And this is how you play InBetween. I like this game a lot. It's a small box, but there's a lot of game in here. First, again, you have a full board. I mean, thematically, ludically, this is a board. What you have there that you form with the cards, because it has a spatial element and you have different conditions that change, different things that activate. It works functionally as a board. And also, of course, you have the card element. What I like about this game, again, is the intensity, is the way in which the various mechanics interlock and create an experience which is maybe more engaging, and definitely there's more thinking to do than what you would think at first. Because it seems pretty obvious. Well, I want to have a lot of people on my side, so I'm going to spend symbols to drag people to my side, to use safety markers, control markers, to lock them onto my side. However, what you can really do changes with the cards that you have. So there is a random element there. I like to influence that person, but I don't have the right symbol. Should I spend a card now to give that symbol to that player? Meanwhile, other things will happen. Meanwhile, the opponent is doing other things. It is a game of limited resources. Energy is important, but you always run out. Limited resources in which really you have to set your priorities. Because certain cards may be very appealing, I want to lock that card and get that ability, but now the action marker is somewhere else, so that's not a priority. As opposed to, oh, the action marker is going to go to a card, and if the safety marker is there, you are gonna get to buy a new level of awareness, which is bad. So it may seem obvious that you're always trying to do things in the characters that will be activated next, but that doesn't have to be, because then you have cards, you have abilities that will let you change the order and flip the direction in which the marker goes. So it is really a matter of trying to improve your situation, trying to block the opponent from advancing too much, but it's really about, I would say, managing dread, managing limited resources, making sure that the opponent doesn't go ahead too much, but you can't just remove them. And again, creating situations that, under certain circumstances, will allow you to score more, to gain an advantage. The challenge is made even more interesting by the fact that the two sides are non-symmetrical. They have different abilities. The human player, for example, has more resources that will allow her to change the direction of the marker. I guess the human player controls the field at the beginning. Hey, it's my town, and so you have that control of the geography, but the dark side is grabbing people and seems to have a harder time getting people on their side. And also there are several game effects that are based on how many people are on each side, so that's another interesting angle there. But you really get, as the human player, the sense of this mounting dread, and you see body snatchers, or the darker version, the crazier version of your neighbor that now go to the dark side. Thematically, that works very well, actually. But again, ludically, game-wise, it also does, because the two sides have these different priorities. Also, another thing, on top of the dread that you have from the theme of people going to the dark side, then it gets harder and harder for the human player to gain energy. Because when you take the action of gaining energy, it's based on how many people are on your side. As opposed to the dark side that gets to collect a lot of energy. So here you have this interesting non-symmetrical balance. The dark side most likely will have several players, several characters, or many characters on their side, and a lot of energy. So if the marker goes there, then the creature player can buy awareness levels and win easily. So you have a lot of these markers, so these cards that would score for the creature player if the activity marker goes there. And this is when the human player's ability to direct the activity marker really matters. So you're trying to dodge those cards to use other abilities to make the marker skip. So you have this very interesting non-symmetrical element. One has auto scoring areas and the other player has fewer but better chances of getting the marker there. Very interesting balance there. The game is really tense because you get a sense of what might happen in a turn or two and you're trying to scramble to prevent it. There really is a strong sense of tension. There are a lot of interesting decisions, a lot of thinking that goes into how you play different resources, different cards, different abilities, and great flexibility with all the things that you can do with your energy, with your hand of cards, etc., etc. In general, I have to tell you that I like InBetween quite a bit. The theme really works and it's appealing. We all love Stranger Things, so some of us still remember the Fringe. Not so old, but I don't know. It feels like it has been a while. So the theme is very interesting, but most important is, if we're talking about a game and not a TV show, this is a game with very strong mechanics, very interesting non-symmetrical gameplay, lots of interesting decisions. So basically all the things that you want from a game. It's not too complicated to play, although certain things may take a while, like to figure out the fact that you take the main turn, then the opponent may take the activity turn, etc., etc. Somehow I saw players get a little confused by that. On the other hand, when you do grok that element, it's fun that you can take actions during the opponent's turn if in fact the activity marker allows you to do so. In general, some of the mechanics are not universally known, so there may be a little bit of a modicum of adjustment that you have to make when you learn the game. But once you learn how to play the game, I believe that InBetween is gonna be a lot of fun. It certainly was for me, and I think it's a really good game. Give it a try. It's an unusual game, but it's a really strong design.